So what the FBI is also telling you is that he reassembled the rifle before he dumped it in the bushes as he's fleeing the scene of a murder. How'd he reassemble the rifle if he accidentally left his screwdriver up on the roof? Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I know it's been a few days. I've been out of town, but it's actually given me an opportunity to let the FBI complete its full official story regarding the Charlie Kirk situation. And man, it's an interesting story to say the least. That's what we're going to do in this video. No tinfoil hat, no conspiracy. We are just going to go from start to finish with the official story put out by the FBI and see if any of it actually makes sense together. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Helps the channel. Follow us on Patreon. Grab some merch. Let's jump into this thing. We're going to start at the beginning. Now, there's a philosophical theory called Occam's razor that when you're presented with multiple different possible scenarios that could explain something, typically the one that's least complicated and requires the least assumptions is the one that's most often true. Is the official FBI's narrative the one that's the least complicated and requires the least amount of assumptions? I'd say no. I'd say it's the one that requires the most amount of assumptions. Let's jump into it. All right, we're going to start at the start of the timeline, work our way through it, and just as we go, talk about some things that just don't quite make sense. All right, first, the shooter. Where did he come from? So at first we heard that he actually went to this school. Then, as far as we know now, he actually went to a different school about 3 hours away in Utah. So yes, this kid drove up for the event, apparently somehow pre-scouted the entire area, knew exactly where he needed to be and park to be able to get onto this roof, get in the exact perfect position he needed to take this shot. Okay, that's fine. We can assume that's not that outrageous of a theory. Then, according to the FBI, we got to get into, as he gets to the event, his clothing situation. A lot of supposed clothes changes in a weird timeline that doesn't make sense. I'll let the FBI talk about it, though.
So when he's first spotted on campus, he has different clothing on, and then he changes clothing on the roof, and then changed back into that clothing at some point, so that when he was apprehended, when he was arrested, the clothing matched the clothing he had on before the shooting here at UB.
All right, so we're off to a great start, right? So the suspect arrives in some clothing, he changes that clothing, puts it in, I'm assuming, this tiny little backpack where he's also got a broken down 30-06. We'll get into that in a second. Climbs to the roof, changes his clothing, takes the shot, and we're going to get to the roof timeline of events here in a minute. Changes back out of that clothing and then flees and escapes the scene. All right, so more clothing changes than a Taylor Swift concert. Sure, but we'll say that makes sense. What the FBI has also told us is, of course, that this is the suspect's murder weapon. All right, this Mauser 30-06 that they found later that day. Okay, again, this one, I've never believed this from the beginning, and we're going to get into why here as we move through the timeline of events. But he changes his clothes. Now, a lot of people were trying to say that he hid this rifle in his jeans. Okay, well, let's take a look at what a 30-06 looks like stuffed in a pair of pants. All right, so courtesy of one of our viewers, yes, as you can see, what does an actual 30-06 look like stuffed in actually kind of a pair of loose-fitting pants? Absolutely outrageous, ridiculous. So no, it wasn't just stuffed in this kid's tiny little skinny jeans. We know that. So the FBI then says, well, yes, he disassembled this 30-06 and he put it in his tiny little backpack, which I'm not even sure how the barrel fits in that backpack. All right, sure. Let's just pretend that this kid is David Blaine Jr. and he somehow has a fully broken down 30-06 in this tiny little backpack that he has with, of course, his change of clothing on top of it. Also, the tools to put together and take apart this weapon. He gets to the top of the roof, and as you heard the FBI say there, he changes his clothes when he gets on top of the roof. He reassembles his rifle. The FBI says we know that's what he did because the FBI found the screwdriver he used to reassemble the rifle, and it matches the DNA to the shooter. Okay, let's see that statement. All right, so yes, here we go from the FBI Director Kash Patel himself, a real winner in this entire situation, tells us the DNA found on a towel wrapped in the woods with the 30-06 matches that of the shooter. Also, that the DNA linked to Tyler Robinson with a screwdriver recovered from the rooftop, that's going to be important here in just a second, was also recovered. All right, so quick recap, because we got to stay in our timeline here because it's all over the fucking place. So the kid shows up, he changes his clothes. He's got his broken down 30-06 in his backpack and this magic Houdini backpack that's fitting all this crazy shit in it. He gets to the top of the roof. He changes his clothes. He reconstructs the rifle with this screwdriver that the FBI found, okay? Then, of course, we see him take the shot, and in the chaos, we see that first video of him immediately sprinting across the roof right after that shot. We then see him flee out the back. All right, and I want you guys to pay attention to this. So if you see my cursor right here on the left, this is where the FBI says he took the shot from. Okay, we then see him immediately sprint along the front of this from that front viewed camera and sprint around this right off the back, as we've seen. There he goes. He zooms in. A lot of people are trying to say he's got a rifle with him. We're going to see here in a second. That's just silly. He jumps down, throws his backpack, picks his backpack up, which looks like his hat, he actually does, because right here, you see this? Whoop. Hat comes back on the head. He has nothing in his left arm, only the backpack in his right arm. Okay, you can see here, if this kid had a giant 30-06 somehow, people are going to see it. But what he has is a backpack. Because again, there's pedestrians, there's cars, there's everybody like right in front of him. Nobody's freaking out. This kid's walking around with a giant rifle right after a gunshot, right? What the FBI said is a deconstructed rifle in his backpack. All right, let's play a hypothetical. And again, this is literally the FBI's story. So this kid was able to take the shot, change his clothes, break down with the screwdriver he used and left on the roof to put it back in his backpack, all in about 6 seconds, as he sprints across in one sort of continuous frame there to leave the scene. Okay, fine, FBI. Sure, let's say that's all somehow true. Well, what's the problem that we just ran into now? Well, that screwdriver he used to disassemble and reassemble the weapon, FBI, you found it on the roof. He left it on the roof. So when he fled out into the bushes where you found his 30-06 in the woods. Let's take a look at that 30-06. That weapon is completely assembled. So what the FBI is also telling you is that he reassembled the rifle before he dumped it in the bushes as he's fleeing the scene of a murder. How'd he reassemble the rifle if he accidentally left his screwdriver up on the roof? Whoopsies. Also, Cash Patel, how come you announced that the DNA matches a towel found in the woods and the screwdriver, but you didn't say that the DNA matches the rifle? That seems like what you would want to match. I don't know. Kind of odd. Let's talk about the shot itself, because again, I've said from the very beginning, I didn't believe this was a 30-06 based off of the official narrative, is that Charlie Kirk was shot from about 150 to 200 yards with a 30-06 round. And we've all seen the footage, I'm sure, by now. None of that ever made sense to me, and I'm going to show you why. So we racked our brains back and forth about, did Charlie have body armor? Did he not have it on? We've run through the timeline of events and pretty much 100% confirmed at this point, no, Charlie did not have body armor on. So what does that mean? The official FBI story means that he took a direct impact to soft tissue in the neck near the carotid from a 30-06 round from 150 meters. Okay. Let's look at a little demonstration. All right, guys, this is going to be an actual ballistics demonstration of what a 30-06 round does to a mock gel human skull, okay? And then these are literally designed to see what ballistics actually do to the human body. This is a 30-06 round. Let's take a watch. Okay. So, we are supposed to believe that a 30-06 round from about 150 meters to soft human flesh, and it's not like Charlie Kirk was some linebacker with, not that it would matter, some giant neck or anything, had that fairly small wound, as you still frame the pictures, So here's the actual still frame. Again, the FBI wants you to believe that wound right there is an entrance wound from a 30-06 round, which we just saw demonstrated, and there was no exit wound. Okay. People say, well, bullets do funny things. Yeah, that would have been real funny, right? You guys realize the entire back of that tent, that white tent, would have just been painted with Charlie's blood. Just absolutely everywhere, had that been a 30-06 round. Again, FBI's story, not mine. So as we move through the timeline of events, yes, the kid escapes, and in the chaos, we have some very odd things happen. We have that old man immediately cause a huge distraction, saying that he's the shooter. Very odd. The FBI then, of course, immediately announces at 4:21 p.m., we got him. Cash Patel says, we got him, boys. About an hour and a half later, says we don't got him. Actually got a good meme for this.
Got the guy.
Oh shit, did you really?
Nope, not the guy.
Oh. Okay.
This is the guy.
Oh shit. F*** you.
Oh, wait, nope, not that guy.
What? What are we doing right now?
I got a picture of the guy.
Yeah, how am I supposed to know that's the guy? Shit, wait, how do I know that's the guy?
All right, I'll see you in Valhalla, jokes aside. Yes, so the FBI thinks they got him, they don't got him. They thinks they got him, they don't got him. Right? Then they find the murder weapon in the woods later that night, supposedly, I guess. Then, and again, I have to keep telling you this is the FBI's narrative, not mine. This kid goes through all this work, planning and preparation, pulls this thing off, gets away, gets in his car, drives all the way back home, and immediately confesses to his pastor father, who the FBI told us was a retired sheriff, turns out was never in law enforcement, apparently owns a construction business. I don't know. Immediately confesses and is turned in by his father, who is now going to receive a $1 million reward from Bill Ackman for turning in his son. Okay, so we got the shooter in custody, and of course now we need motives, we need reasons, because again, he carries this entire thing out, he confesses, admits it to his father, supposedly admits it on Discord, even though Discord is saying that that username and those messages don't actually exist, even though the FBI is saying that. And after confessing to all these people, turning himself into his father, he gets apprehended by the FBI, who is still saying as of right now that he's refusing to cooperate or admit to the crime. Okay. All right, but don't worry, because the FBI, of course, already has the text messages between him and his furry boyfriend or whatever the hell this is. And yeah, let's take a look at those. Okay. Keep in mind, these are Gen Z kids. Do you guys, any of you have kids that are Gen Z or around kids that are Gen Z? Do you know how they talk? Skibbity toilet riz. Okay. But yeah, let's look at this conversation. Let's see what it says. Drop what you're doing. Look under my keyboard. What? You're joking, right? I'm still okay, my love. Stuck in Orem for a little while longer yet. Shouldn't be long until I come home, but I gotta grab my rifle still. That's a good thing to admit to. To be honest, I had hoped to keep this secret till I died of old age. I'm sorry to involve you. You weren't the one to do it, right? I am. Sorry. What fucking Gen Z kid talks like that? Really? And just happens to admit to everything? The rifle, that he did it, on a text message that you would know the FBI would immediately get a hold of. So that's the official FBI story. Let's just recap it real quick, right? So this kid drives from 3 hours away, supposedly knows everything about this college campus, exactly where to enter from, where to go on the building. He must have pre-scouted it somewhere, got it. He shows up, changes his clothes, has his broken down 30-06 rifle and a change of clothes all in this tiny little black backpack, gets to the roof, changes his clothes, reassembles the rifle with a screwdriver, takes the shot, disassembles the rifle, changes his clothes, runs and jumps off the building, runs out into the woods, reassembles the rifle without the screwdriver that he needed to because he left it on the roof, gets away, drives all the way home, and immediately confesses. But then won't cooperate with the FBI. That's the FBI's story. Got it, guys. This is the same FBI that is continuing to lie and cover up the Epstein files. I mean, Kash Patel just came out and said today that he doesn't believe Epstein trafficked children to anybody. So, okay, this is where we're at. That's this FBI, right? Again, I get it. Some people out there really trust the government, and if the FBI says it, it must be true. But guys, when we talked about the start of this in Occam's Razor, does this story, is this the simplest story with the least amount of assumptions needed? No, this story is ridiculous. Now, like I said, this isn't going to be a tinfoil hat conspiracy theory video. Was going to show you the timeline of events so we all have the actual FBI story here. That'll probably be the next video I do where I give my real opinions on this. But there's also some other anomalies I think we need to look at, because there's some things I'm wondering, like, why the hell aren't we receiving this information? Here's the first one. We know that there was this camera set up right behind Charlie. Multiple videos of that camera showing Charlie from behind as he's interacting with the crowd. But now we can't get the footage to this camera for some reason. This camera would show everything we need to know. Where's the exit wound? Maybe the actual trajectory of the round. Maybe hit here. That was the exit wound. Well, this footage might tell us that. Here's the other thing. Wouldn't the FBI be pretty interested in the coroner's report, the autopsy report? That would tell us everything we would know. It would tell us the ballistics used, the entrance location, the exit location, everything. There's pretty much every question we need answered about that side of the story is right there. And that just doesn't seem to exist. Doesn't seem like we're going to get that information. That's pretty odd. All right, so here's the deal, guys. This is the end of it. You can call me a conspiracy theorist, a tinfoil hat, and you should trust the government. You should trust the FBI. I'm sorry. I don't think I'm even reaching on any of this. I'm just literally going through the FBI's timeline of events and trying to objectively say, do these things make sense? Is this possible? And no, I don't see how anybody can look at that full timeline of events put out by the FBI, right? Could this actually be the shooter and all these things? Maybe, but the FBI has done such a horrible job at reporting all this that it makes the entire thing look like a massive conspiracy. And so I think there should be some transparency. Where's the coroner's report? Where's the autopsy report? Where's the backside camera footage of all these things? It's there. Why aren't they being shown? It's all very, very odd and very, very suspicious. And of course, it's going to make people look at this as a conspiracy. And they should, because again, the FBI report makes no sense. All right, so again, that's all this one's going to be. I'm going to probably do a couple more videos talking about what I think is more feasible that happened. Do I think that this kid was working alone? No. Do I think that this kid was the shooter? Judging by the FBI story? No. Just personal opinions, right? But yeah, and then I'm also going to talk about sort of the response in America, because things are getting pretty crazy. And yeah, it's not great to see, guys. But again, if you're like me and you're listening to the FBI just rolling your eyes going, what is this? Then you're not alone. All right. So that's going to do it for this one. Take care. I'll see y'all in the next one.